Okay, so we have quite an interesting daf in store for us. It's not hard to understand. I mean, there's a little bit of cheshbon, but some of the concepts of what a dayan is chayav on and what they're not chayav on is it's what is when are dayanim chayav for things. Okay, so let's see. We are the second line down on Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. So Dine Mominus, so the Mishnah says Dine Mominus is Machzirin. So by Dine Mominus, you go and you could look for heterim for the meaning you can look for chiv or you can look for, meaning you're allowed to. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the next Gemara. This piece of the Gemara is going on the Mishnah where you're allowed to change the din. Meaning if you made a mistake, so then you could change it. All right? So, but not by Dine Mominus, only by Dine, not by Dine Nefashos, only by Dine Mominus. So Raminu, so the Gemara says, I'll ask a stira. Right? Meaning when our Mishnah says you could change the din, so you mamish changed the din. The Bezdin decides chayiv, and then they could say, okay, well, they're potter, or potter, they can go to chayiv. So Raminu will ask you a stira, donis hadin, if somebody, a dayan, paskin something, ziches a chayiv, and by mistake, he was mezaka, the one that's chayiv, or chayiv is a zakai, or he was mechayiv, the person that was supposed to win. Right? Times atar, he made something that was tar tame, or tier es tame, or he made something that was tame, he made tar. Masha also so what he did, and he has to pay. Meaning, we're going to see that it goes hand in hand. If the din is reversible, so then he's not chayiv, could just reverse the din and finished. Right? And if the din is not reversible, then he has to pay. So here we're saying that what was done is done, and he has to pay back for whatever loss that he caused since he paskined incorrectly. So now from here you see that a din is not reversible. Because if it was reversible, why should he pay? Just go back on the din. So Amar Rav Yosef lekasha kan b'mumcha kan b'sheina mumcha. Our Mishnah is talking about where it was a mumcha. So a mumcha can have his psak reversed. But kan b'sheina mumcha. The other case is talking about where he was not a mumcha. So if he's not a mumcha, then he cannot change his psak. Then he's just going to have to pay. I know what's a pshat. Meaning, if a guy's going to change his psak, so the person, the people that he messed over could say, oh, you know what? Maybe the same way you messed up your first psak, you messed up your second psak. How do I know which one of your psakim to go with? All right? So if he's an expert, so then you could say, no, I'm an expert and I'm telling you, it goes this way. And the initial way was a mistake. But if he's not an expert, then you can't say that. All right? So it's interesting because one second, but if you're such an expert, so then how'd you make a mistake? So maybe you made a mistake on your mistake. All right? So it's hard. What?
Whenever he decides to find psak, that's it.
Yeah, but he did that before and he changed his mind.
Well, I guess there's a time frame that he can change his mind.
Oh, so I don't know. Is there a time frame? We really said yesterday's stuff that there's no
Well, when they have to give the other guy the money, you don't have to give it to him forever because the guy can die and can change his mind.
Well, then he'll have to deal with the repercussions of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and Chanami. Whatever it is. But that's what the Gemara, yes, that's what the Gemara is answering now. By a mumcha, so the guy can't tell him this thing like, I don't know which way to trust you, which way not to trust you. But if he, so therefore, if he's not a mumcha, but if he's a mumcha, then the mumcha can say, no, this is the way it is, like exactly what you're saying about. But then the Gemara has a different kasha. Well, mumcha machzirin, and by a mumcha, you're allowed to reverse it. We have a mishnah that says that if the guy's a mumcha l'rabim, well, a mumcha l'bezdin, then he's potter from paying. Now this is wild. This Rashi is wild, right? What the guy paskined incorrectly, and he's potter. Why? Zokt Rashi potter milashalom. I'll read it so nobody can have any tiners on me that I'm saying apikorsis. Second thin line down in the Rashis, potter milashalom. Alma masha asa asi. What the psak was the psak. Umiu potter milashalom. He's potter. The kiman to mumchahu. Since he's a mumcha, the only reason why the psak went wrong is mazola bisha dahu gavra garam leilamiti. It's the bad luck of the whoever it was that came to Bezdin. It was his bad luck that day, and memela the psak came out of the mumcha incorrect. Right? Can you imagine if Dayan comes and paskin's wrong, and it cost you $10,000, and he says, "Yeah, I paskined wrong, but it was your bad luck, and I don't have to pay you." Okay. I mean, it's wild. It's wild, but that's the way Rashi's learning Pshat in this Gemara. Right? You better make sure you're a big mumcha if you're gonna use that card to get you out of that get out of jail free card. I mean, but that's the way Rashi's understanding. Otherwise, how else do you understand it? You paskined incorrectly, you caused somebody a loss, so pay up. No, you don't have to pay up because an expert doesn't make mistakes. If you made a mistake, it's your responsibility because it's your bad luck. All right? Unbelievable. Yeah. But anyway, the bottom line is the kasha is we just
got the referee. He called pass interference. He says, yeah, it doesn't look like pass interference, but it must be a bad day for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Bucky.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, but yeah. So the main point the Gemara is saying. So you see that even a mumcha's din is not reversible. I mean, we just got finished saying that a mumcha's din, a mumcha can be reversible because he has the expertise, and the person he reversed the din on can't say to him, well, I don't know which din of yours to go to, because no, he's an expert, so. He could say, no, my second one was correct. But now we're saying that a mumcha can't reverse anything either. And he doesn't have to pay on top of that. So Amar Rav Nachman kan sheyesh gadol imenu b'chachma minyan. So now we have a new knech. Here we're talking about, meaning in our Mishnah, he's talking about where there was an appeals process. I don't know if it's mamish an appeals process, but there was an older, or I mean, it's always what exactly means chachma and minyan, but it means that there was a bigger dayan than the lower dayan here, right? So he has the koyach to be mavatal the lower court. Let's just call it an appeals court, right? So the bigger dayan can knock out the psak of the lower dayan.
See, Yaakov, they had this in Eretz Yisrael. I'm saying they had the whole shaila. How could you have an appeals court? They had like, the top court, which would reverse decisions from under them. Almost like a real appeals court. Bezdin had that, where they had. I think it was Yasha sat on it, where you
right. I think right. That's what
Bezdin Agadol, and they were the ultimate appeals court. And the shaila was, how could they reverse it? But I guess it's based on this Gemara. You could reverse something if it's a top of Gadol Imanu.
Yeah, that's that's at least, it's a stira, but yeah, the Gemara seems to be saying that yes, if there's a bigger dayan there, then the din could be taken back.
Don't we have a brisa mishnah like that? The Chazal says ain't based in yachal levatel based in achel gadol mimenu.
Yeah, but that's a gzeira.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Gzeras. That's Gzeras. That's Takonas Chachomins. This
Uh-huh.
is just in a regular, regular din.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Kanchi Yesh
Oh,
Gadol.
I get it. Okay, I mean, with the kind of one based in, it can't be mivat by the other one. Okay, I got it. I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
No.
you.
It's a good question, but
Yeah.
a good question. But this is talking about stam and regular, but they din cases. And Kan She'en Gadol Imenu B'Chachma Minyan. Here we're talking about meaning the Mishnah, that the Gemara brought is talking about where there was no Gadol bigger than him in Chachma Minyan. Right. So therefore, they're not believed. So meaning we don't. So meaning because there's nobody big enough to say that you can't that your new psak is going to be any better than your old psak. So maybe the old psak stays. Okay, so that's the first way of answering the stira. Rav Sheshes says kan shetah b'dvar mishnah, kan shetah b'shikol hadas. Oh, so one is talking about if the dayan made a mistake and he forgot of a ferish mishnah, so then his din, Rashi says, ein dinoi din legamri. His din was just a flat out mistake. He forgot of a ferish mishnah. The din has no power to it whatsoever, and it's reversed. Right? But Khan Chata b'shikol hadas. He made a mistake in shikol hadas. Yeah.
You would say the same thing by a psak also. You get a psak from a
100%.
Rav that's totally wrong, and it's beferish against Shulchan Aruch. It's the same thing, right?
100%. Yeah. Oh, so that Gemara is really going to discuss now. At what point do you call Tov Dvar Mishnah? Meaning, how far do you take Dvar Mishnah? Right. So
let's sandwich quick, man.
Yeah. Right. So they're like Lamash. Yeah. Well, let's see. So again, if the dayan made a mistake in something so beferish, so it sounds like from Rashi, it's not even reversing the din. It sounds like the whole din just wasn't a din, just didn't take place. Not chal. It was just a mistake. And when you make a mistake with shikol hadas, so then that's not reversible. So what does this mean? If somebody made a mistake in a dvar mishnah, then he could take it back. But if it was a mistake in shikol hadas, then you don't go back. So what does this mean? So Amalei Ravina Ravashi, and the Bach totally changes it to Amalei Rav Hamnuna Rav Sheshes. Yeah. So Amalei Rav Hamnuna Rav Sheshes. Afilu tab Rav Chia Rav Aishia. Even if you made a mistake with Rav Chia Rav Aishia, Rav Aishia, they had brises. They gathered the brises. So does it mean tab dvar mishnah, specifically a mishnah, because that was something you should have known, but maybe brises you don't have to know? Or is it even brises? So Amalei in. He says, yeah, even if he made a mistake in brises, he should have known. And then he says, Afilu b'derav v'shmuel. Let's take it down to the next generation. So even Rav and Shmuel, who are Merayim, so Amalei in. He says, yeah, even Rav and Shmuel. Afilu b'didivi didach. What about me and you? So he says, Amalei, Atu anan katli kani ba'agmuk anan. Are we people that cut reeds in agam, in a swamp? Meaning, well, basically, this is the old version of what do we chop liver? Right? Meaning, what we're Amirayim the same way Ravina was, etc. Right? It's like Rabban, right? Pesach Sad. We have Rabbi Yashiv, and what's it called? Me. Right? So yeah. So are we chop liver? No. I mean, again, that means to cut down. Are we gardeners essentially? Meaning we're just cutting down things. So Avada, anything that should have been known, then that's what
It's Yaakov, but it's a little different. The Rashi seems to imply that there's two different things when it comes to that. Tov Dvar Mitzvah is just actual psak halacha. Rav and Shmuel are more svara. So there could be a distinction. I mean, I guess the Gemara is saying even so, but there is a clear distinction between what a Dvar Mishnah is actually being tired in what the psak in the Mishnah is, and then, once you go further into the svara of it.
No, that's true. Well, the svara is really coming up next with shikol hadas.
But I'm saying the way Rashi explains the difference between Rav and Shmuel and Mishnah is that one is Svara and one is just Sakalacha. Adin.
Yeah, Rashi, yeah, that's true. Rashi talks about Svara, right? But the Svaras of Rav and Shmuel are going to affect how you understand Pshat and the Mishnayos, right? Question is, like, nowadays, would we say that if a rabbi messes up on a Mishnah Brura, is that called something that you have to know, the Mishnah Brura? Or do we say, no, that's you're not mechuyev to know the Mishnah Brura? I would think that you have to know Mishnah Brura, right? Unless you have like an Aruch HaShulchan who disagrees with the Mishnah Brura, and then you can say that that's not called really making a mistake, right? So it's hard. It's hard to figure this all, especially nowadays that there's shitas available for everything and anything. And and in the old days, a rabbi in Europe, right? So you had to send the tshuva to the Chassam Sofer. It took a month to get back the answer. And how many svarim did you have? Now it's in a second. You go online, you go to Hebrew books, whatever. You find every shita for everything. So can you really say it's a mistake, right? Reb Fava Cohen said, I think we mentioned it once or twice. He says, on a test, an halacha test, if you get a 99, you're a failure. Right? You failed. You can't know 99% of halacha. You have to know 100% of halacha. It's a little scary, right? But that's on one hand. On the other hand, how do you not get 100 on a test? You could say, no, I meant this shita. You say I went with this shita, right? Which you'll almost always find a shita to go with, right? So I don't know how that works. I wouldn't know how it works of this thing. Okay, what's shikul adas? Okay, so here you told me shikul adas. So how do you define shikul adas? We're going trade tanoi. You have two tanoim, or trei amaroi, or two amarim. The pligi adodi, they disagree with each other. V'lo yitmar hilchus, loy kamar, v'loy kamar. And the rabbis that did not paskin not like one or like the other. V'ikri v'avar kechaminai, and it happened to be, right from the word keri, right? V'avar kechaminai. This dayan decided to paskin, meaning there was no halachas. He's okay, I got to decide for myself, and he decided that way. The sugya de shmaitza, which means like the smart money, right? The sugya of the shmaitza, which means it seems like popular psak, was azli ki'idach, went like the other shita. So hainu shikul adas, that's considered shikul adas, meaning it's nothing beferish. So you cannot say that this dayan reverses his din, because the bottom line is he was within the realm of doing the proper psak. Just happens to be that most other poskim disagreed with him and went another way, which is parenthetically why I think why one needs to have shimush from Rebbeim in order to paskin shailas, because there are certain things that the consensus just goes with a certain way, and if you look at the Shulchan Aruch and you look at the Paiskim, you may come out one way, and no, the minig is that we do the other way. However, how that minig came about, I have no idea, but that does happen. Many things, especially in Taras HaMishpacha. If you have a guy that's learning in a closet and he never had any sort of shimush and never looks at any nachranim, he's going to come out with different psakim than the entire world. Right, but if you pin him down to Shulchan Aruch, he'll be 100% right. He'll be 100% right. Say, well, yes, that's just Shulchan Aruch, but no, we don't pass in that way. Right. So, but it's not a beferish that we don't pass in that way. That's what a shikul adas is. Right, meaning, and there's not necessarily a right way or a wrong way. Fine. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. So Rav Huna had a kasha to Rav Sheshes. Again, Rav Sheshes said that the difference between whether you're allowed to take back a psak is whether you made a mistake in Dvar Mishnah or not. In Dvar Mishnah, if it was made a mistake in something so open, then the psak gets taken back. If it was not in something so open, like a shikul adas, then the psak cannot be taken back. So Rav Huna asked Rav Sheshes, Maisa b'para shel Beis Menachem, whether you notice that or not, is debatable. Okay, but there was a story with Parah Shenitla Aim Shala, that literally the mother of it was taken out, meaning the uterus was taken out of the animals. The Chila Reb Tarfon Leklavim, Reb Tarfon Paskin, they came and they asked Reb Tarfon, what's the story? They took out the uterus of the animals. So are they treifas? So Reb Tarfon had them feed it to the dogs, which means he paskin that they're treif. And then they appealed it. I don't know if they appealed it or somehow it came to them and they said it's mutter. Why? Sha'amar, because they said, Sha'amar tudus harayfa. Tudus the rayfa said, Ein para v'chazira yotzes me'alexandria shel Mitzrayim. No, there's no such thing as a cow or a chazar or a pig that comes out of Alexander from Mitzrayim. Unless they take out its uterus so that it doesn't give birth. Meaning, the Rashi says, Pshat is that they had such high level and such great quality animals, they did not want anybody, they wanted to corner the market. So they didn't want anybody to be breeding these animals. So they took out the uteruses, very simple. They took out the uteruses, and like this, nobody will ever be able to breed from these animals. So Tudus Harayf is basically saying Edus.
That's why Parai had to give Yosef the horses to get the people, because he was the only one that can approve what could go out. Just recently we had it. They said that they will Messiahs any animal that went out of Mitzrayim, so the enemy shouldn't get them.
Eitaka did it back then too?
Yeah, that's what they bring in the Medrash, that you have to get permission from Parai.
Very interesting. Wow, so this is Mamish Doiris later.
Yeah.
This is like the Hanhog of Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
Very interesting. No, thank you. That's very good. So okay, so then he was saying, so what are you saying?
This Gemara, I think, is one of the Makairis for some of the Chuvas why milk is mutter today. It's not Chalav Treifa.
You talking about with the stomachs or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to really go down that road. But yes.
I think Shachti uses this in his Chuva, no?
Does he? I don't know. I never read his Chuva.
I think this is one of the Makairis.
Yeah, meaning because if it doesn't have
I'm sorry, could you just
they all
go
live.
back?
What do you say?
I'm just lost because I don't know as much of everyone else. They took out the womb and the animal is still alive, or after it was dead?
No, alive, yeah. Animal's alive. They took out its uterus.
Then they shechted it.
No, they didn't shecht. He had them give it. He had them give it to I mean, obviously, they didn't have to shecht it, but when it was shechted, then it was considered treif.
When the animal was able to live when they took out the womb?
Yes. That's exactly the shaila here. Is it considered a treifa that it shouldn't live the year or not? Reb Tarfon Paskin, it's considered a treifa. He said you got to give it to the animals. Humans can't eat it. It's treif. And tudus.
Maybe it's talking about the uterus and not getting an off from Aver Mina Chai, and it's whether you can give it to the dog or not. And if you gave it to a dog, that means you are getting an off from Aver Mina Chai. Masha'en can. If it doesn't trafe up the animal, then maybe it's not Aver Mina Chai, and then it would be mutter to give to the dog.
I don't know. That's it seems to be that we're talking about it didn't treifa.
Yeah.
They operated on the animal, and it's not considered a treifa?
That's exactly that's exactly.
What are the parameters for a treifa?
That it can't live out the year. Let's go to basic.
It can't live out there.
That's all the Mishnayos. That's all the Gemaras in the third parak of Chulin, and the Mishnah says over there. I think that was the Tosh over here.
Correct. Right, and now that's what Gershon is talking about, because nowadays, where they poke the holes in the cow's stomach, so does that make it treif? Does it not make it treif? Right. So that's anyways. So Reb Tarfon Paskin, like Naftali wanted to say that it's treif. No way this thing could survive. And then right, and then Tudor said, no, that's the standard, standard for any animals coming out of Mitzrayim, which Reb Dai was saying that it seems that was Dairis, that's what happened. Right? So now Reb Tarfon got slugged up by Yavne. Yavne Paskin differently than based on Tudus's testimony. So Reb Tarfon, Holcha Chamorcha Tarfon, right? He said, Tarfon, there goes your chamor. I guess that was his only belongings. Basically, what he was saying is that I paskined wrong. They went and they gave the meat to animals instead. So I caused these people a big loss, and now I'm stuck. I'm on the hook to pay for this. That's what he said. So Amar Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Kiva said, no, not so fast. Potter, you're potter, you don't have to pay. Shekola mumcha l'rabim potter milashaleh. Anybody who's a mumcha l'rabim is potter from paying, right? Which is what we said before. If you're potter, you're potter. Now, what's the kasha? The Isa, and if this is true, that Rav Shesha says is that there's a difference if the dayan makes a mistake on something that's beferish a mishnah, or it's a shikol hadas. Lei, why didn't Rabbi Kiva say to him, Toya b'dvar mishnah? You made a mistake in a mishnah. But Toya b'dvar mishnah chayzer, and if you make a mistake in dvar mishnah, the din goes back, and you're not chayav to pay anything because your din wasn't even a psak. Like we said, Rashi's pshat. If a dayan makes an incorrect psak because he forgot a mishnah, then he doesn't have to pay because the whole psak was not a psak. Right? So why didn't Rabbi Kiva just tell that to Reb Tarfon? My friend, he says, because it's a beferish mishnah in Chulin that says if you take out the uterus, it doesn't make it into a shefa. Reb Tarfon forgot that mishnah. So why is Rabbi Kiva coming up with this fancy din that says, oh, you're a mumcha l'rabim, so you're exempt? What do you mean? You're exempt because your psak was not even a psak, because it was a beferish mishnah. Why didn't he say that? Elamai must be that is not correct. That we don't differentiate between whether the psak was a shikol hadas or beferish mishnah. Which the obvious question. For what?
Reb Tarfon was his Rebbe. We expect him to say, Rebbe, you made a mistake in a Mishnah.
He's a Rebbe v'chavi. He wasn't just a Rebbe.
Well, yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah,
one second now. Gershon, you can go with a much bigger kasha. All right, it was bothering me like somewhere in the depths of my whatever's part of my brain is, and now it just got a little bit clearer. Because what does Tudus have to do with this? Who cares about Tudus's testimony? Why didn't Yavne say it's a beferish mishnah that it's not a treifa? So Elamai, they must not have had this mishnah yet, or something like that. The footnote in the article talks about it, but like, it's unclear what went on here. Was it meaning because some Tana somewhere said a din doesn't mean that that's called a mishnah? Meaning, was it established later on? Right? It's very unclear. It's very unclear exactly what's going on here. But the point is a kasha on Rav Sheshes, because why didn't Rabbi Kiva just say that he messed up on a regular mishnah? So when answers chada v'oid ka'amar, Rabbi Kiva was telling him two things. He's saying a chada. He's saying one thing v'oid. Chada the type of dvar mishnah ata. One, he says, first of all, you don't have to pay it back because you made a mistake in the mishnah. The type of dvar mishnah chayzer, and when you make a mistake in the dvar mishnah, it goes back. V'oid, that's one. V'oid inam b'shikol hadas to Isa. And even if you want to say that you made a mistake with shikol hadas, mumcha l'rabim ata, you are a mumcha l'rabim, right? Or bezdin, mumcha l'bezdin. That's what the Gemara had said before. V'chola mumcha l'rabim or mumcha l'bezdin, potter milashalem is potter from paying. Right? I'm not so sure which one is the bigger chizik. You botched a mishnah, but you don't have to pay, or it's a shikol hadas and you don't have to pay because you're a mumcha l'rabim. I'm not sure which one I would want to hear. Right? You don't want to hear that you forgot you'd much rather, else the ego, hear that you said a different shikol hadas than the other chachamim. Okay, but at least you didn't forget a beferish mishnah. Right? So Okay, so I'm not sure which way that goes. But then the Gemara asks a different obvious kasha. So what are we saying? That we're saying that Reb Tarfon doesn't have to, you can change, the din could go back, and Reb doesn't cost Reb Tarfon money. The problem is, what do you mean the din go back? They already fed the animals this meat. So he already caused the loss. Meaning if theoretically he had told them, go feed the animal to the dogs. Right? And now we're getting him to change his mind. Fine. So you take back the animal and don't feed it to the dogs. But here he already fed it to the dogs. So what are you telling him? Oh, the din goes back. He caused the damage already. It's too late. Right? That's the Gemara's kasha. First while on. What do you mean? What are you asking a kasha on Rosh Hashanah? He already fed it to the dogs. He already had it fed to the dogs. There's nothing for them to be chayzer. Meaning, when we're saying that the rule is that if the din could be reversed, then you're potter from paying because just reverse the din. That's all if the damage wasn't done yet. So Rabban, this is sort of what you were saying. Meaning once the damage was done, so then he does say he should have to pay back. Right?
Yeah.
Meaning 10 years down the road, that's what you're saying. 10 years down the road, the psak gets reversed. What was the guy supposed to hold the money in escrow for the rest of his life? Right? No, you give it out. So here, Reb Tarfon had the animal fed to the dog. So he's on the hook. He should be on the hook anyways. So what answers Hachi Kamalei. Now this is what Rav Hamnuna was asking of Sheshes. Now, if you say that somebody makes a mistake in a Dvar Mishnah, then the psak still stays the way it is, which I don't understand how you could do that because it was just a straight toys. But okay, but if that would be the case, Alma Kam Dina, so you see that the din stands. Hainu the Kamafkid Rav Tarfon, that's where Rav Tarfon was scared. The Kamar le ihu mumchil bezdin, and then Rabbi Kiva told him, no, you're a mumchil bezdin, but at the potem ilashalom, and you're potem ilashalom, which is why, like Rashi said, what are you potem ilashalom? You paskin wrong, you forgot a Mishnah. So you have to say it's because of the guy's bad luck. Right? However, we understand that, but that's what would be. But if you say that somebody makes a mistake in a psak in a Mishnah, then the whole din goes back. So then le'malek, even the ilu havoi para, then why doesn't he say, why Rabbi Kiva should have told him, right, that if the para would have been havoi, would have been still here, dinach lav dina, your din is not a din, but like klumavada, you did nothing wrong, because we're just gonna bring back the cow, give it back to the owner, and tell him to eat it. So hashtanami like klumavada. Now also that it's dead, you did nothing.
So then why, if that's true, that Be'etzem, he's not the one who's causing damage because Lamaisa, somebody else fed the dog, to the dogs, then every psak halacha you can say that really about. You can say, well, I passed in one way, and Lamaisa, it damaged you, but that's not me, that's you getting damaged. Why don't you say, sounds like it's almost like a grumma at that point. So then every psak halacha should be. Then why don't we say that? Why only over here are we saying that? You can say that about every single psak halacha Be'etzem.
Right. Okay, 100%.
So then why are judges ever chayiv? Just tell them, listen, I paskin, but you got damaged. That's almost like a grumba.
This sounds like there's rules. Certain things they chayiv and certain things they're not chayiv. That's all.
But in this scenario, it's saying that lamaisa, you're not chayiv because lamaisa you didn't actually cause the damage. So even though you
correct,
you paskin the halacha that caused the damage. He assumed it's garbage, so he threw it to the dogs.
Yes, so you're 100% right.
So then you can say that by every psak halacha, Betzim.
Exactly.
So then every psak halacha, nobody should be chayiv then.
It's our good old grumma. It's our good old grumma. We haven't had it since Bava Kama for the most part.
I understand.
We're back to the grumma. Yes.
But again, so then why are they ever chayiv then?
Why should it even non-mumcha?
Yeah.
So a non-mumcha probably is chayiv because he had no right to do it. He had no right maybe to say it, and he
never have a right to damage, and yet we say grandma. So
no, meaning he's got to revert either. I don't know. You're right. Maybe it's some form of knas, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I think that's what Rabban was saying. Rabban was saying that we tell judges you're going to be chayiv, and that's it.
Right.
Is that what they say in the law? They say qualified immunity. Once you got the certification, the smicha, you have qualified immunity. You're above that stage already with qualified immunity.
Also talks about if you done Dina Digarmi, I mean, in the next Gemara, that they would be high.
Right. Well, yeah. What did I want to say? There actually is a Pischei Tshuva. I was reminded about it last night in Taruvas, right? That says that if you brought a shaila to the Lamdonim and you didn't bring it to the Paiskim, and you got a wrong psak, you are not a shoygig. You're I don't remember the lashon. Either you're a mazid or a karl mazid. Because why are you bringing it to the lamdanim? Gershon, you must remember this. No. I gotta find it. I came across it yesterday, Agav, and it was like, don't bring it to the besmerish with the lamdanim because then you're carved to a mazid. You cannot blame the paiskim. You can't. So maybe if you go to a non-mumcha.
It sounds like one of those long piskei chuvas near the wine and the flour and the milk.
What?
Sounds like one of those long piskei chuvas. That the wine, they added flour, or they added milk.
Right. Yeah. All right, I'll have to look it up. Anyways, so yes, Akiva, this is why this thing is so complicated. But really, Rav Chisda's teretz coming up is similar to what you're saying. Rav Chisda Amar, Kansha not of anasam biyad. Rav Chisda is a different teretz. Again, we have a stira whether Dinei Maminis is reversible or not. Our Gemara seems to say it's reversible, and the Gemara in Bechaira says it's not. The Mishnah, they're both Mishnayos. So Rav Chisda Amar Kansha not of anasam biyad. Here, meaning the one in Bechaira is talking about where the Dayan took the money, right? He paskin like one. He said, "Okay, give me over your money." He took the money and he brought it over to the other guy. See, he directly. I don't know if this means a lack of grama, Akiva, but he directly did the damage, right? So, and that's one. So therefore, you can't take it back because he made it so strong by him actually going physically taking the money and delivering it. That made it very strong and it's irreversible. Which again, hard to understand why. If it was a mistake, it was a mistake. And here, meaning in the case over here in Sanhedrin, it's somewhere where he didn't take it with his hand, meaning he just told him, go pay him, and the guy paid him. So it wasn't such a strong psak. Yeah, fine. So that's what Chisda's pshat. So now I'm going to ask Bishlam Achayev as a zakai. So how do you find this case? I mean, in all these cases, in order for it to be irreversible, in which case then the dayan has to pay for it, is talking about where he actually did it miyad liyad. So he understands chayev as a zakai. So when he was mechayev the zakai, right? So then kugan shenotov v'nosam biyad. That means he went over to the guy who wasn't supposed to pay, took his money and gave it to the person who wasn't supposed to get paid. So he did it physically. Elazika is a chayev. But if he was mezaka the chayev, meaning really this guy was chayev to pay, and the dayan told him you're potter. He made a mistake. He told him you're potter. What are you handing over from hand to hand there? You're just telling him don't pay. Right, so how would you ever find a case of being mezaka the chayev? Damrale potter atok. So you tell him that he's potter. That means he didn't take it or give it biyad. So my answer is given damar potter ata. Since he says you are potter. By saying potter, that's as if he physically took the money and gave it to him or gave it back to him. Okay, so then we're asked, then what about our Mishnah, where it says that dine mamanis you can give back whether it's a schus or whether it's a chayva. So bishlam is schus mishkachas. So we understand if it's a schus, so you find the case. Where first he told him you're chayiv, but he didn't physically take the money with his hands. So that's fairly straightforward. How do you have a case of going l'chayva? So what are you going to say, that you told him he's potter va'amrit, but you just said kivan damarle potter ata k'maisha natal It's as if you gave it with your hands. Right? So if that's the case, how are you allowed to change your mind? Right? So the Gemara answers, it doesn't mean it's two separate cases. It's one case. Dine mominus machzirin l'schus shehi chayva. Dine mominus can be taken back, right? For somebody who's going to be potter, meaning you made him chayiv, you're changing the psak that he is potter, even though lamaisa you are being mechayiv somebody else. Meaning, for every zakah you have a chayiv, right? In any case of dinei mamas, one guy says I'm owed money, the other guy says I don't owe you money. So if you pass on like one, you're automatically taking away from the other. So meaning the Gemara is not talking about two different cases. It's just sort of explaining the case where the dayan paskin like one, and he gave him the money, which means that he was mechayev the other guy the money. And if it was a mistake, so then he's going to go back. Right? So it's really one case. So Gemara says, okay, if that's the case, and Gemara asks the kavasei, or really the way it's supposed to be pronounced is dichvasa, which for some reason in the Yeshiva world they don't pronounce it that way. Right? Yesterday we had basya bisya, today is dichvasa. Right? Dichvasa, or let's say the kavasei gabi nefashas, and you have to say when it says by nefashas, where we said machzir and l'schos, you can go back for the schos onto Amebez now ve'em machzir and l'chayva, and you don't. Meaning the Mishnah says that by a schos, you're about to be mechayev a guy misa, you can go back and change your psak, right? But you cannot change your psak l'chayva. Meaning once you came out that he is potter, you cannot change it. So machzir and l'schos. So changing somebody to schus is schus kredasa, that you understand. It's a schus by itself, right? Meaning a case where it was hilchas Shabbos. It wasn't a case of him killing somebody, right? You have a case of just turning it to schus, is that they had eidim, that he was mechal Shabbos, etc., and then somebody came out and said, "Oh no, you're about to be mechayev him, but I found a schus that he's a tinik shenishma," or something like that, right? So that you would find. But what about in a murder case? When it says, but we don't go back when it's a chiyuv, and you have to explain the Mishnah, same way you explain mamanis, that it's not two separate cases. It means for a schus, that's a chayiv for somebody else. Who is that chayiv? Chayiv deman. Who is the chayiv? Meaning, who's the loser here? The guy's already dead. The guy he supposedly killed is already dead. So who's the guy? So we're saying that you can't reverse the psak, and you reverse the psak where there's going to be a chiyuv to somebody else. Who's the chiyuv? So when I answer is halekasha chayvasi the goyel adam. What do you mean? There is a chiyuv. The goyel adam, which doesn't mean we're not talking about golos. The goyel adam is the next of kin, who has the right to kill the person who by mistake killed his relative. Right? So here there's no goyel adam because it was done on purpose. Supposedly it was done on purpose. But the relatives are going to be very upset, right? That's what they always, all these murder cases. So the relatives are looking for, what's the word? Justice? Justice? They're looking for justice. There's another word.
Usually vengeance.
No, vengeance, justice. Closure. I don't know, something like all those lashonos. So that's what the Gemara answers. That would be. So the Gemara says, 1 second. You were mechayev this guy, right? And now you really want to change the psak to schus, but we're saying you're not going to do it because the relative is going to get upset. Really? So that's why you're going to kill a guy because the relatives are upset. So mishum chayvasa de goyel adam katlina leilahai. You're going to kill this guy, even though you have reasons to believe that there are schusim, right? That can't be. It's not possible that you're going to kill somebody based on that his relatives are going to be upset. Maybe in the United States judicial system, but not in the Jewish court system. V'oid my bain. How can you say it's one case if the Mishnah says the lashon of bain, right? Bain. L'schus bein l'chayva. That sounds like two different cases. Very hard to say bein l'schus bein l'chayva is talking about the same din. Right? Fine. So the one that says kasha, that is a kasha. Ravina Amar, another teretz, right? That is a teretz to answer Rav Chisda. Yeah. Ravina Mashkin. You know when you could have a case, again, we got into this kasha because Rav Chisda said a teretz, there's a difference whether the dayan physically goes and hands the money to somebody else. Right? If he did, then that's considered a full psak. But you can't have that in cases where you're made somebody potter from having to pay. So he says, no, where the guy who went to Bezdin had a mashkin, meaning he had a, what do you call a mashkin?
Collateral.
Collateral, thank you. He had a collateral in his hand and he was holding on to it because he was hoping he'd win the court case. Now he lost it with a mistake from the dayan. So the dayan said, okay, give him back the collateral. So that would be a case. But not the Mimeno, and the dayan came and took the collateral and gave it to the other guy. And now he wants to change his mind. So that is a case of you making somebody potter from paying, but actually causing money to change hands. Okay, Tima Satar. And how are you going to have a case of being matamas something that's tahar? Right? Meaning, when you're matar something that's tameh, so then that could do damage. But when you matama something that's tar, so what did you do already? So when it says the agi be sheretz, meaning this dayan he wanted to make sure that everybody understood his psak clearly. So he paskined, he said, let's say this fruits or vegetables are tameh, and he went and he touched it to a sheretz to show that's it. So you see that in that case, he went miyad liyad, he actually caused it a tumah. And what about tiras atame? I'm sorry, I should have read the tiras atame also needs a case. Tiras atame, sheirvan bein peirosa. What he did is he took something tame, and he wants to show everybody how he believes that it's really tar, and he mixed it in with his peiros. And now he decided to change his mind. So now he's got a problem because now he has the tame vegetable in his vegetables, right? Or whoever's vegetables he mixed it into. So then on that he will be chayav for. Okay, so that's the harder part of the
Isn't
daf.
Madama machlokes if it's a gram or not?
What do you mean?
This last case is a case of Madama. Someone mixes in Tommy Paris with someone else's tire Paris. We said about Kami's potter.
If what again?
This last case, someone who mixes Tommy with tire is potter.
Right. But that's only because it's a strong psak.
No, but regardless of the psak, if I take something that's vaday tummy and put it into someone's tahir peiros, my chayav or patur?
You mean stami talking about? Well, you're getting back to grama now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
we paskin about becoming his patur.
Right.
Taisus asked the question. On the base. He says it's low gara than if I did it b'kavana. I'm sorry, low gara than if you do it b'shogeg or patur.
Yeah, but he's not bringing the Gemara above a comma.
Yeah, it's a Mishnah and Gittin. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then, right. Yeah, that's a taka. But the Taisus teretz is that it don't make a difference because we're going to still go after the Chacham because he should have known better. Right. Okay, let's see. So din in nefashos. So we said that in the Mishnah, we said din in nefashos. You can only change the din for schos, not for chiyuv. So talking about a minay liyotzim based in chayev. How do you know somebody who left Bezdin as his chayev? and then somebody comes along and says, I can be malamet spus that he's not chayav misa, minayin shemachzir nosoi. So how do we know that we bring him back to Bezdin? Tamalomer Nuki al Tarag. It says, don't kill somebody who's Nuki. So if he's Taka Nuki, even though you're already Paskin Chiv, we're going to try and get him out of it. Fine. And when I Liyot Bezdin Zakai, and how do you know somebody left Bezdin and he was Zaycha, meaning he was innocent? Say, how do you know that we don't bring him back to Bezdin? Tamalomer Tzadik al Tarag. Do not kill a Tzadik. Which doesn't really mean he's a tzaddik, right? Means in Bezdin they said he was a tzaddik, even though he's not Noki. That's the way Rashi said. Fine. So Amar Rabbi Simi Barashi, Rashi says v'chilufa lemesis, but the opposite is by a mesis, right? Our good old mesis. We haven't had it for a couple of blocks. Is the guy that gets people to do avodah zarah. So by him we look to be mechayim. Desiv le'sachmal v'le'schasalav. Don't have Rahmanis on him and don't cover up for him. But you should give him a double lashon. You should mamish. You should kill him. All right. So it's anybody who causes people to do things that would be chayim misa, so then you knock him out. Fine. So now the Gemara asks, what about chi of gullus? So chi of gullus is sort of it has to do with din and nefashos. So can you reverse the din that a guy has to go to Bezdin to Golus or not? So when I answer Asi Retzeach Retzeach, we have Gzera Shav Retzeach Retzeach. So therefore, once you paskin that he doesn't have to go to Golus, you can't change the din. Okay, Chavi Malkis Menai. What about Chavi Malkis? Because we said that Malkis is some form of Misa, which we just had in Shari Tshuva tonight. So you say, Asir Russia, we have Gzera Shav Russia, and therefore, when somebody became potter from Akas, he cannot be made chayiv again. Tani Nami Hachi, Chayiv Golias, Minayin. How do we know that Chayiv Golias we can only change a psak to the good for him, not the bad? Asir Retzeach Retzeach. Chayiv Malkis Minayin, Asir Russia. Right? Okay, so that's a fairly easy Gemara. But then we say ve'ein machzir and l'chayva. We don't go back for chayva. So Amar Rav Chiya bar Abba, Amar Rav Yechanan, hu shata b'dvar she'enat stukim ma'idem by. This is a big caveat. We're saying that we don't change the din for chayva, meaning once Bezdin paskin that a guy is potter from Misa, we don't change it. So Gemara is saying that that's only make tzedukim only the tzedukim only kept things that says beferish in the Torah. So basically, the way the Gemara is saying it is that if it's so beferish in the Torah that the guy is chayev, then you do change the din. Right? So that's why the way the Gemara describes it is that if it's so beferish that even the tzdukin paskin like that, then you have to reverse his din, even though it's v'chiyuv. He made a mistake with something that's stukin about Maida. If he made such a glaring mistake that even the tzdukim amayded, zil kari beirav, who just go read it in a beirav in a yeshiva. Just go read the pasuk in a yeshiva, which Rashi says means every kid knows the din. So how can you not change the psak? So you have to wonder, how did the dayan make that mistake? So let's see. So what happens if they made a mistake with perverts, meaning as Mises nus, right? Meaning chiyav misa, you could find all sorts of things, loopholes, etc., etc. But Navala, it's pretty straightforward. So can you ever change that? And that's also chiyav misa. Amarlei, she said to him, "Adam maiftach yakid zil kait karach utzlei." Says while your fire is burning, cut down your karcha, your gourds, and roast them. Right? Meaning while you're learning, while in the heat of the moment, make sure you learn it properly. And then you'll make sure you'll have ripe shot. All right. Meaning, what Rashi says is Lamaisa, it's so beferish that even the tzedugim are to it, so therefore it is. So therefore they would be able to go back on the din. It's manami Rabbi Yochanan if somebody Vadai makes a mistake by any sort of znus, then you have to go back. Okay, so then you want to ask, so then what would be the case? Meaning the Mishnah says that when you have a case where guy is chayav misa, you never change it. So we said already, it's not with a straight out murder case, it's not going to be because that's beferish. Even the stukam avoida. And if you're saying now that but the ma'asim of znus is also beferish, so then when do you have a case? When are you going to have a case where you don't change the psak? He made a mistake that the ma'asis nus happened shaloi kedarka. Now he thought, okay, shaloi kedarka, the ma'asis is not natural, so therefore he's potter. But we know from the psukim that the Torah compares unnatural to natural. And Mamela, there would be there if people are mezana, not in Oisamak, when they do it Shaloi Kedarka, they would still be chayiv. And this Dayan, this Bezdin made the mistake and they thought it would not be chayiv. So that would be a mistake that's not beferish, and therefore they would not, if they pass in that way, then they would not reverse the din. Right? And the tzdukin are not related to that. Right?
What happened to Tov Dvar Mishnah all of a sudden?
What do you mean? Because it's a Dvar Mishnah?
Isn't that the first Mishnah in the Arul?
Yeah.
Or Abba Vinte, rather?
But we're talking about Sedukim over here, not Mishnah. We're talking about something that's a Sedukim or Maskim Psukim in the Torah.
That's when you do go back. But Tov Dvar Mishnah, you also go back.
Right.
Even if it's for Dina Nefashas to be matzah the guy? Wait, do we say V'tila Eda on that or no? We say you go back? This is Dina Nefashas. This is not.
Oh, this is to be Chayav, the guy.
Right.
He said he was Pater, now he's Chayav. Yeah.
And what would be the opposite? Can you say, oh, the guy should be Chayav because that's Torah B'dvar Mishnah? B'dvar Mishnah, would that work?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to understand it with the Torah Dvar. I mean, for this case, it's not a momentous case, right?
Right.
So the Gemara.
Yeah. I mean, how far does the V'tila Eda go?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, it's late, so we'll call it a night for you. All right. I hope it was a little bit understandable. It's a conceptually, hashkafically hard daf, but all right, fine.